The arrival of the broken girl. The heavy doors of the alien outpost slammed open, shaking the metal walls. Cold air rushed in, and every creature in the crowded hall turned their heads. Most of them expected trouble or maybe a fight, but instead, they saw two guards dragging something across the floor. It was a girl, an alien girl. She was small and thin, her skin a pale silver blue. Her clothes were torn and dirty, barely holding together. Her hands and knees were scraped raw, and a strange purple blood oozed from her forehead. Her eyes, one swollen nearly shut, searched the faces around her, desperate and scared. Not a single creature stepped forward to help. At the center of the hall stood a human man. His name was Jack. He was not big or scary looking like the others. He was just an engineer, stuck on this alien world because of a mistake long ago. But tonight, he was the only human in the whole outpost. As the guards tossed the girl at his feet, laughter exploded from the crowd. "Look, Jack," one shouted. "They brought you a gift. Play with your new toy." Jack frowned. He glanced down at the girl, then at the guards. "What is this?" he asked, trying to hide his anger. "She's broken," a guard said with a grin. "Worthless. Maybe she'll keep you entertained." Jack's hands tightened into fists, but he forced himself to breathe. He knelt down beside the girl. Up close, he could see her trembling. Her skin felt cold as ice, and her breathing was shallow. She tried to pull away, but she was too weak. "Easy," Jack whispered softly, making sure his voice was calm. "I won't hurt you." The crowd booed and laughed. "He's too soft." Should have given him a blaster instead. Someone yelled. Another threw a piece of rotten food that bounced off Jack's shoulder. Jack ignored them all. He took off his old jacket and gently placed it over the girl's shoulders. She flinched at the touch but didn't move away this time. Her lips moved as if she wanted to say something, but no words came out. Only a small, weak breath. Jack looked up at the guards again. "Why are you doing this?" he demanded. "She's just a kid." The guards shrugged, already bored. "Just following orders," one said. "Have your fun, human." With that, they turned and left, leaving Jack and the girl alone on the cold, dirty floor. The crowd slowly lost interest too, drifting away to find new entertainment. Soon, only a few curious eyes remained, whispering behind their hands and tails. Jack knew he had to move fast. He gently lifted the girl into his arms. She was lighter than he expected, almost as if she weighed nothing at all. She gasped in pain, but did not fight him. Jack could feel her heart pounding hard and fast. As he carried her through the hall, a few brave souls tried to block his path. "Where do you think you're going, human?" one asked, flashing sharp teeth. "She's not worth saving." Jack didn't answer. He just kept moving, pushing past them until he reached the small, cramped room he called home. Once inside, he closed and locked the door behind him. Only then did he finally relax his shoulders. He set the girl down gently on his cot. She shivered uncontrollably. Jack hurried to his supply box and pulled out a small med kit, barely enough for small wounds. But it was all he had. He cleaned her cuts as best he could, using warm water and soft cloths. She winced at first, but slowly grew still. Jack worked quietly, whispering words of comfort he wasn't even sure she understood. "Hang in there," he said softly. "You're safe here. Nobody will hurt you now." He wrapped her in a thin blanket, covering her bruised legs and arms. The alien girl's eyes finally focused on his face. For a long moment, she just stared at him, confused, frightened, but also curious. Jack smiled, trying to give her hope. "My name is Jack," he said gently. "Can you tell me yours?" She opened her mouth, but only a faint sound came out. Her body was too weak, her spirit nearly broken. Still, Jack saw something in her gaze, a spark of life that refused to die. Outside, the laughter and noise of the outpost continued. But inside Jack's tiny room, everything was quiet. He sat by the girl's side all night, refusing to sleep. Every hour, he checked her breathing, made sure she was warm, and whispered promises that she was safe. He didn't know who she was, where she came from, or why anyone wanted to hurt her. But Jack made himself a promise. He would not let this broken alien girl die. Not while he still had strength left in his body. As the first light of morning shone through the cracks in the metal wall, Jack knew one thing for sure: his life, and hers, would never be the same again. The first step toward healing. The metal night was silent until the girl screamed. Jack jerked awake, heart pounding. For a moment he didn't know where he was. Then he saw the alien girl thrashing on the cot, eyes wide with terror, her voice hoarse and wild. In her nightmare, she fought invisible enemies, arms flailing weakly. Jack reached out and caught her hands, but not roughly. Hey, you're safe, no one's here. It's just me, Jack, you're safe. She gasped for air, blinking at the dull yellow light above them. Sweat poured down her face. When she finally recognized Jack, her breathing slowed, but her whole body trembled. For a second, Jack saw how young she really was, more child than adult. He let go of her hands and gave her space. You had a nightmare, he said gently. Sitting back on the cold floor, no one will hurt you here. I promise. The alien girl watched him, chest rising and falling. After a moment, she nodded just once. Jack knew this was the first real step. Trust was rare here, and trust between human and alien was even rarer. He moved slowly, showing her the water bottle. Drink, he said. He tried to sound firm. But kind, you need your strength. She eyed the bottle suspiciously, then took it with shaking hands. The first sip made her cough. The second sip stayed down. Jack smiled. A tiny victory. Jack checked her wounds again. In the harsh light, they looked worse: deep bruises along her ribs, cuts on her face and neck, and strange round scars. Jack couldn't explain. He knew he couldn't heal everything. But he could do something. He searched through his tiny box of supplies and found a patch of synthetic skin. This might sting, he warned softly. The girl flinched but didn't pull away as he pressed the patch over the worst wound. He tried not to show his anger at whoever had hurt her. Suddenly, someone banged on the door. Jack tensed. He glanced at the girl. Her eyes had gone wide again, full of terror. A rough voice called, "Open up, human. We want to see your pet." Jack kept his voice low. "Don't move," he whispered to the girl. He grabbed his only weapon, a long metal wrench, and crept to the door. He didn't open it. "Go away," he shouted. "She's sick and needs rest." "Or maybe she's dead already," another voice sneered. More laughter. Jack pressed his back to the door, every muscle tense. He listened as the footsteps faded. Only when it was quiet did he breathe out and put the wrench down. He turned to the girl, trying to smile again. "See? They're gone." To Jack's surprise, the girl whispered, "Thank you." Her voice was thin, but clear. Jack stared in shock. He had not expected her to speak. "You're welcome," he said gently. "Do you have a name?" She hesitated, lips trembling. "Lyra," she whispered at last. "Lyra," Jack repeated. "That's a good name. I'm Jack." The small, simple act, her giving him her name, meant everything. Jack felt hope spark inside him. He set to work making soup with the last of his rations. The smell of warm food filled the tiny room. Lyra watched him closely, suspicious but hungry. When he offered her the bowl, she took it with both hands. She ate slowly at first, then hungrily, as if she hadn't tasted real food in days. The night crept by. Jack told her stories of Earth, not of war or hate, but of green fields, blue oceans, and quiet days. Lyra listened, her eyes growing heavy. Just as Jack thought she might fall asleep, Lyra surprised him. She pointed at a scar on her arm, then at a tiny, hidden tracker. Jack leaned in and saw it, a small silver device, barely visible. She whispered, Bad people. They find me. Jack's jaw tightened. He understood now why she was so afraid. She wasn't just a victim, she was being hunted. Don't worry, Jack promised. I'll get it out. You're safe with me. He found his old toolkit and, with trembling hands, carefully cut around the device. Lyra squeezed his arm, but didn't scream. Sweat beaded Jack's forehead, but finally the tracker popped free. He dropped it into a cup of boiling water. Let them track that, Jack muttered for the first time. Lyra smiled, a tiny, tired smile, but real. Jack looked at her and realized something important. Healing wasn't just about fixing wounds. It was about giving hope. Tonight, hope had begun. But outside, in the shadows, someone was already watching Jack's window, eyes cold and full of trouble. Unwelcome attention. The outpost never truly slept, but that morning, a strange tension filled the air. Jack felt it the moment he stepped out to fetch water. Whispers spread like cold mist about the human, about the broken alien girl, about last night's screams. Eyes followed his every move. Even the old cleaning droid paused in the hall, its glowing lens aimed at Jack as if recording him. Jack tried to ignore the stares. He moved quickly, filling his canteen at the main pump and checking over his shoulder. When he turned to leave, 3 shadows blocked his path. The first was a tall alien with green scales and gold eyes. The second was bulky and covered in metal plates. The third was small and quick, always grinning at troublemaker Jack knew by reputation. You're brave, human, said the scaled alien, voice low and cold. Or stupid. Jack kept his face calm. Just looking after someone hurt. She's not your problem. The metal-plated one rumbled. Give her up. Let the outpost decide her fate. Jack met their gaze. She stays with me. She's under my protection. The small alien laughed, flashing sharp teeth. Protection? From who, Jack? All of us? Jack's grip tightened on the water canteen. She's done nothing wrong. Why do you care? The green-scaled leader leaned in. You're making enemies, human, not just us. The warden wants to see you. Jack swallowed. The warden ruled the outpost. No one said no to the warden. But Jack had no choice. He nodded. Tell the warden I'll come. But she stays in my room. Hurt her, and I'll make you regret it. For a moment, none of them moved. Then the metal-plated alien snorted and turned away. Don't take too long. You don't want the warden angry. Jack hurried back, nerves jangling. Inside his room, Lyra sat on the edge of the cot, wrapped in his jacket. She looked stronger than before, but still pale. She met Jack's eyes, sensing trouble. Jack crouched beside her. Lyra, you need to hide. People are asking about you. The warden wants to see me. Lyra's hands trembled as she gripped the jacket. Danger? She whispered. Jack nodded. Big danger. But I promised you'd be safe. Hide under the cot and don't make a sound, no matter what happens. She obeyed, crawling beneath the cot with barely a sound. Jack covered her with a thin blanket, then stood and took a deep breath. A hard knock rattled the door. Jack opened it to find 2 outpost guards waiting, armed and stone-faced. Warden's office. Now, one said. Jack glanced at the cot. Coming, he replied. The walk through the outpost was long and tense. As Jack passed, more creatures stared, some curious, some angry, some afraid. They all knew something was about to happen. The warden's office was a cold, gray box with a single desk and a chair bolted to the floor. The warden sat behind the desk, a thin, old alien with blue skin and black eyes, sharp as knives. Sit, the warden ordered. Jack sat, back straight. The guards closed the door. The warden fixed him with a hard stare. You caused trouble. Last night, Jack kept his voice steady. She was dying. I only helped. The warden leaned forward, voice cold. That girl is wanted by people with powerful friends. They paid well for her. If you keep her, You risk not just your life, but everyone here." Jack met the warden's gaze. "So you want me to hand her over? Let her die?" The warden's lips curled. "We do what we must to survive. If you make enemies, you face them. Alone, think carefully, human." Jack stood, anger boiling inside. "I've made my choice." The warden's eyes narrowed. "So be it. But don't come to me for help when trouble comes." Jack left the office, feeling every pair of eyes on him as he walked back. He opened his room, heart pounding, and dropped to his knees to look under the cot. Lyra stared back, eyes wide. "Safe?" she whispered. "For now," Jack said softly. "But we have to be careful. They want you gone, Lyra. I won't let that happen." He slid the tracker, the tiny device he'd removed last night, across the floor. "Someone might already know you're here." Lyra looked terrified, but she nodded bravely. "What do we do?" Jack's mind raced. He could stay and fight, but that would put Lyra and himself in more danger. Or he could run, but where could they go? Outside, footsteps gathered in the hall, angry voices. The outpost was waking up, and Jack knew they had little time left, but for Lyra, he would risk it all. Even if it meant making every alien in the outpost his enemy. Learning her secret, Jack barely slept that night. Outside, the voices never stopped, angry, suspicious, hunting for answers. Inside, the small room was filled with silence, so heavy it felt like a weight on his chest. Jack listened for trouble, but his thoughts always circled back to Lyra, still hiding under the cot. At dawn, when the outpost was quiet, Jack finally spoke. "Lyra, it's safe for now. You can come out." She crawled out, blinking in the weak light. Her silver blue skin looked even paler, but her eyes were bright with something new, hope, or maybe just relief. Jack knelt to her level. "They won't stop looking for you. I need to know why. What did you do to make them hate you so much?" Lyra hesitated, fingers twisting in the fabric of his jacket. Her voice was so soft he could barely hear. "Not what I did, who I am." Jack waited, patient. He knew not to push. She sat on the edge of the cot, drawing her knees to her chest. "Long ago, before pain, I lived in a bright house. My family was important. My father a leader, a judge. He wanted peace, but others wanted war." Jack listened closely. Every word seemed heavy, as if it hurt her to remember. Lyra's hands shook as she spoke. "Someone betrayed him. Soldiers came in the night. My father was taken, my mother too. Only I escaped, but they wanted to use me, to make my family obey." She looked at Jack, tears sliding down her cheeks. "I ran, I hid. But they always found me. They said if I didn't do what they wanted, they would hurt more people." Jack's heart clenched. "And the tracker?" he asked softly. Lyra nodded, touching her arm. "To follow me, to punish me if I ran." Jack felt anger burn inside. He wanted to smash something, to shout at the world for hurting someone so innocent. But he just said, "You're safe here, I promise." Lyra tried to smile. "You are different. Most just want to watch me break." Jack shook his head. "Not everyone is cruel, Lyra. Not all humans, not all aliens. Some still care." Suddenly, a low beep echoed from Jack's comm unit. He snatched it up, his heart sinking when he saw the message. "Last warning. Hand over the girl tonight, or both of you will suffer." Lyra saw the fear in his eyes. "They found us." Jack nodded. Grimly. "Yes, but I'm not giving you up." He paced the small room, mind racing. Then he remembered something. The old tunnels beneath the outpost, half flooded and forgotten. He'd repaired them once, long ago. Maybe, just maybe, they could escape. Through there, he turned to Lyra, determined. "There's a way out. Dangerous, but better than waiting for them to break down the door." Lyra stood shakily. "I trust you." Jack quickly packed a small bag, just water, food, a flashlight, and his old wrench. He gave Lyra a second shirt and tied her hair back to hide her face. If anyone stopped them, maybe she would look just like any other alien girl. They waited until night. Jack peeked outside. The hall was empty except for a cleaning droid and a drunk alien passed out near the stairs. Quietly they slipped out, shoes barely making a sound on the metal floor. The entrance to the tunnels was hidden behind broken machinery. Jack pried open the grate and helped Lyra inside. The air was cold and damp, filled with the smell of rust and old secrets. Lyra clung to his sleeve, moving slowly through the dark. The flashlight beam danced across cracked pipes and dripping water. Somewhere above them, heavy boots stomped. The outpost guards were searching every room. Jack whispered, "Almost there. Just keep going." Suddenly, a loud crash echoed behind them. Someone had found the open grate. Jack grabbed Lyra's hand and ran, splashing through ankle-deep water. Angry voices shouted from above. Lights flickered in the dark. Lyra stumbled, but Jack caught her. "Don't stop, we're almost out." At the far end of the tunnel, a metal ladder led up to a hatch. Jack shoved it open with all his strength. Cool, fresh air hit their faces. Together, they climbed into the night, leaving the angry outpost behind. For a moment, they just stood under the stars, breathing hard. Hearts racing, Jack looked at Lyra. "You're free now." "Truly free," Lyra nodded, eyes shining. "Because you cared." Jack smiled, finally allowing himself to hope. "Let's keep moving." They're not far behind. They vanished into the shadows, two survivors, alone but not broken, ready to fight for a new life. But Jack knew the hardest challenges were still ahead. Escape planned a world outside the outpost was nothing like Jack remembered. Cold wind whipped through the ruins, carrying sand and the strange scent of alien flowers. Every shadow seemed alive, and every sound made Lyra flinch. Jack moved carefully, scanning the empty roads with sharp eyes. He knew the guards wouldn't give up the chase easily. They kept moving until they reached a broken wall at the edge of the outpost's perimeter. Jack paused, hiding them behind chunks of crumbling stone. Both of them were out of breath, but there was no time to rest. In the distance, searchlights danced across the landscape. Somewhere behind them, shouts echoed as the outpost guards discovered their escape. Jack crouched beside Lyra, voice low. "We can't go back. The tunnels are being watched now. They'll close the exits and set traps. We have to get out of this sector before sunrise." Lyra looked terrified, hugging her knees close to her chest. But she nodded. "Where will we go?" she whispered. Jack thought fast. "There's an old freight yard on the other side of the valley. Cargo shuttles come through sometimes. If we can reach it, maybe we can sneak onto a ship heading off-world." Lyra shivered in the wind, but her eyes showed a glimmer of determination. "I'll follow you." Jack checked his supplies. They had just enough water for one day and a few food bars. He wrapped Lyra in a spare jacket, then led her out into the wild alien night. The landscape was a maze of metal ruins and strange, twisted plants. They crept between collapsed towers, always listening, always watching for danger. Once, a pair of outpost guards swept past, voices sharp and angry. But Jack and Lyra pressed themselves into the shadows and waited for the danger to pass. As they walked, Lyra's limp grew worse. Jack slowed his pace, offering her his arm. She hesitated, then leaned on him, letting him help her across the rough ground. "You saved me," she said softly. "But why?" "You don't even know me." Jack smiled, but it was a sad smile. "Everyone deserves a second chance. I know what it's like to feel lost and alone." Lyra squeezed his arm. "You gave me hope." The sky began to lighten, turning from black to deep purple. They hurried now, knowing sunrise would bring new patrols and make hiding almost impossible. Finally, they reached the edge of the freight yard, a sprawling field of rusty containers and abandoned vehicles. Jack motioned for Lyra to crouch behind a pile of scrap metal. "We wait here until the ship lands," he whispered. "Then we find a way aboard. Stay low and don't make a sound." Lyra nodded, her eyes wide with fear and hope. Minutes passed, then an hour. The world seemed to hold its breath. Then, with a deep rumble, a cargo shuttle descended from the clouds. It settled on the far side of the yard, engines whining as workers began to load crates. Jack saw his chance. "Now," he whispered. He took Lyra's hand, and together they slipped through the maze of containers, dodging shadows and workers' dot. As they reached the shuttle's cargo ramp, a guard stepped into their path. Jack froze, heart pounding. The guard's eyes narrowed. "Who are you?" the guard demanded. Jack had only a second to think. "Just a tech," he said, forcing a smile. "My friend's hurt. We're trying to get her to medical." The guard frowned. "Show me your ID." Jack swallowed hard. He didn't have one. The moment stretched then. Suddenly, Lyra coughed, clutching her side, her face twisted in pain. "She needs help." Jack pleaded. "Please, she'd die out here." The guard hesitated, then waved them on. "Fine, get inside, quick." "But if the captain catches you, you're on your own." Jack mouthed a silent thank you as he and Lyra hurried up the ramp. Inside, the shuttle's cargo hold was dark and cold, filled with crates. Jack found a corner, tucked Lyra behind some boxes, and wrapped her in a blanket. They waited as the engines roared to life. The ship shuddered, then lifted off, carrying them away from the outpost, away from everyone who wanted to see Lyra broken. For the first time, Lyra let herself cry. Jack held her hand, promising they'd be safe. He knew it wasn't over. They were running, but they were still being hunted. Yet, for now, they were free. The escape plan had worked. And as the stars appeared outside the tiny cargo window, Jack finally dared to dream of a real future for both of them. But deep in the shadows of the ship, unknown to Jack and Lyra, someone else watched their every move. The next danger was already waiting. Sacrifice. The cargo shuttle roared through space, engines humming as it drifted toward the outer planets. Jack and Lyra huddled quietly in the shadows of the cold cargo bay, listening for any sign of footsteps. Every sound made Lyra tense up, and Jack's nerves felt raw from days without sleep. It wasn't long before trouble found them. The ship's engines groaned, then slowed as red lights flickered along the walls. Jack peeked through a gap in the crates. 2 crew members walked by, talking about a new destination, one not on the usual trade route. Jack's heart thudded. Had someone changed the plan? Lyra tugged his sleeve. "Someone's coming," she whispered. Jack pulled her further back behind the crates, but it was too late. A tall figure stood at the entrance to the hold, holding a scanner. The man's eyes, sharp and unfriendly, swept the bay. The scanner beeped. He turned straight toward their hiding place. "Show yourselves," he barked. Jack stepped out, arms raised. "We're not here to steal. My friend is hurt. We needed to get away." The man eyed Lyra, who cowered behind Jack. "You're the human from Outpost 17. And that girl, she's worth a fortune to the right people," he sneered. "I could turn you in and make enough credits to retire." Jack's fists clenched. "You could, or you could help us. She's just a child running from monsters." The man laughed. "You must think I'm soft. People are already looking for you too." Jack knew words wouldn't work. He looked around for anything he could use. His eyes landed on a loose pipe. He made a split-second decision. Jack leapt, grabbing the pipe and swinging it. The man staggered back, yelling for help. Suddenly, the cargo bay door opened, and 2 more crew members stormed in, blasters drawn. "Freeze!" Jack put himself between the blasters and Lyra. "Take me," he pleaded. "Let her go. She's done nothing." One of the crew, a woman with a scarred face, hesitated. "They want the girl, not you." Jack shook his head. "If you hand her over, You're no better than the ones who broke her." The leader aimed his blaster directly at Jack's chest. "Don't be a hero, human." Lyra stepped forward, trembling but fierce. "Don't hurt him," she cried. "Please." Jack glanced at her, then back at the crew. He saw doubt flicker in the woman's eyes. "Let the girl go," the woman said suddenly. "She's just a child." The leader snarled, but she stood firm. "This isn't right." The standoff lasted seconds, but felt like hours. Then, footsteps thundered above. Someone else was boarding the shuttle. The leader's face twisted with fear. "The bounty hunters," he hissed. Chaos erupted. The door at the far end of the bay blew open. 3 armored figures rushed in, weapons raised. "Step away from the girl," they commanded. "She's coming with us." Jack knew he had to act fast. He turned to the crew. "Get her to the escape pod," he shouted. Blaster fire lit up the bay. Jack ducked, shielding Lyra. The woman with the scarred face dragged Lyra by the hand, leading her toward the emergency hatch. The leader fired back at the bounty hunters, buying them a few precious seconds. Jack blocked one of the bounty hunters, taking a hit to his shoulder. Pain seared through him, but he didn't fall. He tackled the attacker, giving Lyra more time. Lyra looked back, tears streaking her face. "Jack, no!" "Go!" Jack yelled. "Don't look back." The woman shoved Lyra into the escape pod and slammed the door. She punched the launch button, and the pod rocketed away from the shuttle, carrying Lyra to safety. Jack staggered, blood soaking his shirt, but still fighting. The bounty hunters surrounded him. "You're too late," Jack said through gritted teeth. "She's free." The leader of the crew, wounded but alive, stood by Jack's side, firing at the attackers. "No one gets left behind," she said fiercely. In the end, it was enough. The bounty hunters, realizing their prize was gone, retreated. Jack collapsed, gasping for air. The woman knelt beside him, applying pressure to his wound. "Why did you do it?" she asked softly. "You nearly died for her." Jack managed a weak smile. Someone had to show her. Not everyone wants to hurt her. Far away, Lyra's escape pod sped through the stars. She watched the cargo shuttle shrink to a dot, her heart aching. She didn't know if Jack was alive, but his sacrifice lit a fire in her. She would not give up. For the first time, Lyra felt hope stronger than fear. A new beginning. Space was silent, but Lyra's heart was louder than any storm. The escape pod drifted through the endless dark, carrying Lyra away from everything she knew, away from pain, fear, and the only friend she'd ever truly had. Jack's face haunted her mind. She pressed her forehead to the cold window, eyes burning. Would she ever see him again? Or had he given his life so she could be free? The pod's computer beeped softly, breaking the silence. Approaching habitable moon. Life signs detected. Preparing for landing. Lyra wiped her tears. There was no time to give up. With a sudden jolt, the pod punched through the moon's thin clouds and landed hard in a field of strange blue grass. Lyra's legs shook as she climbed out. The world was quiet, the sky painted with 2 rising suns. For the first time, no one was hunting her. She was alone, but she was free. She wandered toward the trees, clutching Jack's old jacket. It smelled like oil and warmth, like safety. Each step felt heavy until a sharp sound in the distance made her freeze. She ducked behind a stone. Footsteps, voices, spread out. "She can't have gone far," said a rough voice. Lyra's breath caught. She recognized those uniforms, the bounty hunters. Somehow they'd followed the pod's signal to this place. Her fear was a burning coal, but so was Jack's memory. He hadn't given up on her. She wouldn't give up on herself. Lyra waited for the voices to move away, then ran low through the grass, searching for shelter. A broken metal dome, half buried in the earth, appeared between the trees. She squeezed inside, heart pounding. The hunters moved past, unaware. Inside the dome, The shadows shifted and a low groan reached her ears. Lyra's eyes widened. Someone was there, curled up against the wall, wounded and breathing hard. As she crept closer, hope and disbelief flooded her. It was Jack. He looked older, pale and hurt, but alive. Bandages wrapped his shoulder. When he opened his eyes and saw Lyra, he almost smiled. "You made it," he whispered. Lyra knelt beside him, tears streaming down her face. "You're alive." Jack nodded weakly. "Didn't come this far, too. Quit now." Lyra wanted to hug him, but she remembered his wounds and was gentle. She checked the bandages, cleaned his forehead, and shared the water she'd saved. They stayed hidden, listening to the hunter's search, and then move on, giving up at last. When night fell, the world outside was silent again. Lyra sat with Jack, watching the twin moons rise. "You saved me, Jack," she said. "Why?" Jack met her eyes, his voice soft but sure. "Because everyone deserves a new beginning, even if the galaxy tries to break them." For the first time, Lyra smiled without fear. "Can we stay here, make a home?" Jack managed a grin. "I'd like that." The next days passed quietly. Lyra gathered berries and learned which plants were safe. Jack built a small shelter from the wrecked pod, teaching Lyra how to set traps and collect water. They laughed sometimes, and every smile was like a sunrise. But Lyra never forgot what Jack taught her about trust, about hope, about choosing kindness even when the world is cruel. She promised herself she'd protect others if she ever had the chance, just as Jack had protected her. One evening, as the stars glowed above, Jack looked at Lyra and said, "We can start over. Together." Lyra took his hand, hope burning brighter than ever. Yes, together. And so, on a strange new world, two broken souls began to heal, not just from wounds, but from the past itself. They weren't just survivors anymore. They were a family. They were a reason for hope. From that day forward, Lyra never called herself broken again. She was strong, she was free. And thanks to Jack, she finally believed in a new beginning.